Hello, and welcome to Chords Curves. I'm your host, Blue Sirens. On today's episode, we welcome back Fergmethazine, where we talk about his new album, The 25th Hour. Ferg talks about his influences for the album, his journey as an artist, and what this album means to him after his last couple of releases. Listen in to learn more about Ferg, his creative process, his journey, and don't forget to check out The 25th Hour on Bandcamp and coming to stream services soon. Hey Ferg, what's up, man?
Hey, yo, what's up?
Hey man, it's good to talk to you again. I know last time we were talking when we had you mentioned you're doing the 25th hour. I didn't think that was like a month ago. It feels like it's forever ago. But
Yeah.
the 25th hour, it's out now on Bandcamp, but you gave me a little bit of a preview before it came out, and dude, I honestly think it's got some of your best tracks in it so far. Especially, I know you released a single "Wave Baby." Like that one was my favorite track, I think, out of the entire thing. So, like, what was some of the inspiration behind some of the tracks that you've had on the 25th Hour?
For this project, thanks for checking it out, by the way.
Oh, dude, of
And
course, man.
yeah.
I'm gonna check out anything you send me, man. Like, I was hyped when you. I had no idea you were coming out with it, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, hey, by the way, at the end of the last podcast episode, I'm just letting you know I've got new music coming out soon." And so I was like, "Yeah, dude, I've definitely got to check this out."
Yeah. Gotta get my plug in, you know. This
Exactly.
one, this one was, I put a lot into this one, you know. Things changed for me in a big way, and I was able to move out of my home state and really changed my life around. Like my life just changed a lot, really, around April last year, and some things that were holding me back finally got settled, and I was able to make some moves that I really needed to make, and in the long run are probably the best for me. And um, a lot of this music that's on the 25th hour is was created last year after I had already gotten everything together for the top up files, and it was just, you know, I was feeling better. I was in a new spot. I was with my lady. We had our cat. You know, things were looking up and looking pretty good. So I was just in a good place and willing to experiment with my sound a bit more. Well, you know, sticking to the core, but definitely trying new things, new mixing techniques and whatnot. And yeah, this just, you know, it's a labor of love. And outside of I think, yeah, outside of tracks 5 and 7, everything was pretty much made uh, just using those new techniques and whatnot. Track 5 was Cohiba Red Dot. That track 5 was just, I don't even remember how I made it, to be honest, but it just kind of came together. And obviously, I needed an outro, so I took a double beat that I had made, you know, something that was just made late night while I was just couldn't sleep and watching some old wrestling, and you know, figured it'd be a good outro. So
Hey man. And sometimes like that inspiration comes out of nowhere, especially when you pull like a sample from something. Like dude, when I try to do a sample of like, oh, what's gonna sound good here? And if you're not worried about like I feel like everyone's kind of worried about like, oh, I can't sample something that's like popular or whatever. But like people do it all the time. And
yeah,
like you could probably hit a randomizer on a sample of something and be like, can't find it. And it's just those things that like you're like, you know what, it's late. Let's try this. And that's the shit that tends to work when you're just like, let's just do it.
yeah, yeah. For me, like I kind of have like bouts of insomnia, so like there's a those are pretty much my most creative moments. I've, you know, put most cover art together at 2, 3, 4 in the morning when I just can't sleep, and you know, the 11-hour long Zelda music isn't putting me to bed yet. So I just start, you know, putting ideas together and start looking for clips of things, and I'll go through my you know, backlog of samples and be like, okay, this sounds a lot different now. Like this will actually work. not how I'm hearing it. And you know, just start shopping around for ideas for myself to keep things going and moving and prepare for other drops and beats to send to artists and whatnot. You know, yeah, this is pretty much just an improv. This is pretty much just a product of insomnia and you know, a new lease on life.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Quixote, the guy that wrote "Somebody I Used to Know." I think he was suffering from pretty bad insomnia when he wrote that song. So it sucks a
Yeah.
bit, but if you get a hit song out of it and you be like, "Hey, I don't have to do anything the rest of my life. I got that bag made," then you're good. So you know, hopefully your insomnia like gets that for you. But uh, dude, let's talk about the album artwork because I knew you told me about the title and a little bit on another podcast episode, and then when you sent me the music and I saw the album artwork, I was, dude, this is that like fire. Like that was some dope album artwork. What made you? What was the inspiration or your thoughts behind that? And I also love that you made it like a PlayStation game cover too.
Oh yeah. No, I'm a big. I'm really big on. I'm really big on like retro stuff for the most part. You know, like I got a pretty massive DVD collection and a very curated uh, PlayStation 1 collection because there's a lot of games I didn't get to play as a kid because, you know, growing up, it's one of those things you think about later, but it's like, man, dad paid for the games. He's gonna get some games he wants to play too. He doesn't want to, you know, play, you know, some JRPG that's about, you know, the power of friendship and stuff, you know. So we got Tekken and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, you know, and Hitman 2 and things of that nature. But I always liked the layout of the PS1 cover art, and they were always just like super fire too. Like, you know, like even though the game looked probably nothing like the cover art, it was always just something super cool. And just kind of wanted to channel that again. Um, the hourglass, you know, it was a theme, and if you look at the top rope files cover art, it's also in the like corner of the rings too, because you know we're always fighting against time. That's just something I really believe. And you know, time is your enemy and it's your best friend. You know, things change with time, but that could be good or bad. And you know, just you know, the hourglass just means a lot to me. And you know, sands of time are always falling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, those are some words of wisdom right there. Time's like one of those things where it's like depending on what your perspective on it is, could be like you said, it could be for you or it could be against you depending on what's happening with it.
Yeah. And yeah, the whole idea behind the 25th hour is just like I got the idea from an old Edward Norton movie where he's like a drug dealer trying to like relive like the last couple weeks of his life to figure out who ratted him out because it could have been anybody around him.
Yeah.
And he's got like one full day before he has to turn himself into the feds and stuff. And I just like started thinking about it. And I was like, man, the 25th hour, like I love that movie. And I was like, man, that's such a dope name. And I was like, you know what?
That's gonna be mine
You
now.
know, yeah, you know, I'm gonna use it. Like it's, you know, it's a movie from the early 2000s. They're not missing out on anything, you
Yeah, they
know?
can't copyright that
And
anyways.
yeah. And yeah, it's just like, you know, I just started thinking about what's the 25th hour, you know, it's the moment after everything should have ended, you know, it's the space between days,
Yeah.
you know, so it's just one of those things, man. And I really felt like once I got this album art together, it really made sense for the feel of all these tracks, you know?
Yeah, I definitely feel like from like the last two things I've like listened to quite a bit from you, this one's a bit different. Like there's some parts of it where I'm like, okay, this has a lot more of a groove. Sometimes it has like almost like a 70s or kind of like soul kind of vibe with some of the samples you got. And so like this
Yeah,
side of you when it comes to like music, I feel like from what you described earlier, like you're in a better place in your life. Like this is a good reflection of what was going on then, because everything's like, hey, this is a good vibe, like keep it going. Not not that anything else isn't a good vibe, but it's just like, like a good summer kind of vibe where it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to put this on and listen to it and share it with friends?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going for um, I guess a more cohesive work that grooved a lot better.
Yeah.
I really like how Top Rope Files grooved, but I did something that I said I wouldn't do on that album, which was use older beats, you know? And I ended up going back on that last minute and just, a good portion of Top Row Files is old beats, and I just like kind of mastered them again and made them sound better. But that was more of I felt like that album was more of a celebration and just a sort of uh, just a release on something I needed to put out, you know,
Yeah.
because with how everything went, how crazy life got after April, I wasn't making music very much, but I'd made a few things here and there. And, August came around last year and I was just like, all right, it's time to get something out there. So I ended up dropping that and, I was really happy with it. I was really happy with the support I received and the criticisms and like the praise and whatnot. It was really great. And it's one that a lot of people I know still revisit. And yeah, it was just good. But 25th Hour is more of like I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. It's like I guess like a reflection piece. Just like, hey, this is what I've been up to. Here's kind of the new sounds that I've been rocking with. It's really not that big of a departure from the old sounds, but it's I tried some new things. Like track 4 is more of a West Coast influenced sort of track because I was for years I've been like heavily listening to like Draco the Ruler, Ralphie the Plug, Mike Sherm, like Larry June and Cardo's production. So I found this traditional Japanese folk song and it was extremely slow. And I don't know, I was at this producer meetup that I go to. Most of them are like more bass house, electronica type of producers. There's me and a couple other guys that do hip hop, but I don't know. I heard it again for the first time and I was just like, oh, let me just manipulate this and, got the right BPM for it. And it just turned into this solid groove once I added that kind of granular bass line.
Dude, that's awesome. And like I know you talked about this before, but like that's one of the hardest things about sampling and writing stuff that are like in hip hop is like how do you get something that's completely different and make it something completely different from that too. Like I know last time we
Yeah,
were talking about like, DAW versus like a machine. It's it's so hard to like take a sample and be like, yeah, that was something that you don't even recognize until I play the full song, or even if someone's like, oh, why do I like this song? Well, it's because someone else sampled it and you like that song on top of that. So
yeah,
it's such a tough craft that I hope you get some credit and some pop offs from how you've been taking some of the samples and kind of flipping them on this album and your previous albums, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not just, hey, just take this vocal, throw it over a drum beat. It's like there's an art to it that uh,
yeah,
we don't really appreciate, I think, as much as we should. And the people that do appreciate it are the ones that make the music. And it's like, okay, well, other people please appreciate it and don't make music because it's expensive to start making music. And yeah, but
oh yeah,
it's something that I definitely appreciate and I see like in your work. And so I hope, you know, go listen to that track, man. He said track 4, listen to that. That's got that sample and see how cool it is when he flips it.
yeah. Yeah, it's really like it's sometimes it could be nerve-wracking trying to flip something because there's always that time in between, and that time in between, if you're, for me, some days I'll do a dig and I'll be digging, for samples, and sometimes I look up, it's been 3, 4 hours, you know, and I'll look outside, sun's going down. I'm like, I still need to make dinner. I gotta feed the cats. I gotta gotta clean my cats and all this stuff. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I'll get to it tomorrow. And when you get back to that
Priorities.
track, yeah, real life happens.
Yeah.
And then when you get back to that track, you're kind of like, sometimes you'll still have that idea fresh of like, oh yeah, this is how I want to flip it. And other times you're like, wait, which one was it? Because like I'll have like 20 to 30 samples in this stockpile that I've loaded into the MPC, and some days it's easier than others, and then some days the inspiration hits a lot different, and you're able to make something that sounds completely different from the source material. And other times, it's a bit of a reimagining, and you're just bringing life to a song because I try to go for the more obscure stuff, a lot of traditional folk stuff, like Japanese. I've been really getting into this guy, Osamu Shoji, who did a bunch of like synth work in like Japan in the late 70s and 80s, and like Yuji Ono. A lot of people have sampled this stuff, but like he's got some good stuff he did for like the Loop and the Third soundtracks for those old anime. And the craziest thing is like I've really been like kind of focused in unintentionally on like 80s music. It's always been a big interest of mine. Just like, sorry, 80s music has always just been like a big interest of mine because things really changed around then, and you had the introduction of all these different synthesizers and technologies, and so people were experimenting more and stepping out and trying new things. And yeah, just everything I've been pulling for like the last year has really just unintentionally been from the 80s. And there was also this very big pop of, since those new sounds were coming out, right? It seemed like record labels were just like trying to get albums out from people. And so you got some of these acts that come out that made a phenomenal first album, and then you can't find anything else, you know? And yeah, there's just something about that. I can't really explain it, but that just everything that I just said, especially with those artists never making anything else or anything that's come to the surface, um, I feel sort of duty bound to use it because it's like, man, like if I found these sounds and like, this was buried in a YouTube page from 12 years ago on some guy's uploads, and it's only got a certain amount of views, like, there's that rare factor of it, but there's also just sort of this duty I feel to like use it to like revitalize it. So like if it ever comes up, I could just be like, oh yeah, it's like from this group, and like this is the one thing they made that's pretty insane. Just breathing life back into something that's unfortunately gotten lost to time, you know?
Yeah, and like there's a big value to that. I think for like artists that some artists that are popular, like you're like, oh yeah, they like that mainstream stuff, or like just stuff that everybody likes. Everybody's gonna like a little bit of the popular stuff, but there are
Yeah,
the artists that are like, yeah, the ones that are really innovative. They're like, oh, I was inspired by this band you don't ever know of, or no one's really heard of, because if I wasn't, I couldn't sound like me. I'd sound like somebody else that you already know. It's just they're like
yeah,
a 30-40% influence on what you're doing, so it sounds like you're reinventing something where you're like, sometimes it's just I've listened to stuff you haven't, and I've had experiences you haven't had, so it seems more fresh to you as a new listener. So, dude, that's really cool. Like the '80s, I feel like the '80s comes back in waves. Like the
yeah.
2020-ish or 2019, I felt like it was coming back in pop music, and then
Hmm.
it feels like it's coming back a little bit more. I feel like a lot more people have kind of been influenced or sharing their influence of how like synthesizers and a little bit of how like Daft Punk has like really shaped some of their music and trying to pay more homage to that. So I think like you kind of landed right on the money with that. So like those beats are gonna find a home in plenty of people's headphones because you're with the cycle of music and it's also just good music. So
Yeah. And yeah, a large part of like my love for the 80s is really like it goes back to like around like 2011, 2012, just those early Tumblr days where like kind of the first instance that I noticed of like the 80s influence was when vaporwave popped off. Like Macintosh Plus and like that label Beer on the Rug. They were just putting out, you know, album after album of just these vaporwave tracks, and it was all this crazy like chopped and screwed remixes of like 80 songs, and it made you want to figure out like wait, what is that? And like, me and my buddy Steve, we used to sit back and jam this Macintosh Plus song, and then we, did a little bit of research. It turns out it was just like a kind of chopped and screwed version of an old Diana Ross song called It's Your Move. And like, that's just that for a while, that was just like a theme song for us, man. Like, so it was just that, and then like Team Sesh with Bones and Dylan Ross and a little bit of Xavier Wolf. They were kind of in like the Raider Clan sphere of their early 2010s. They used a lot of production that drew from like the 80s aesthetic, 80s, 90s, you know.
yeah, definitely, man. And like there's I feel like some people really gotta they want to chase something that's not really there for them, or like they feel like that need to find something that's like no one has this, so I have to get it. But it's like you don't need that for your influences. Like you got to be upfront with who your influences kind of are to yourself and your creative process, and then if you're not finding what you're wanting to put out, or you're not hearing it in what you're doing, then that's like the opportunity to like go and find what you're missing and expose yourself to something new. And like you
Yeah.
did that like when you were younger, and like that's how all these other artists and all these bands is like open to those experiences, trying lots of new things, and then diving deeper into those rabbit holes of, well, what song are they actually sampling? What music did this guy actually listen to? How do I make sure I'm hearing the right stuff to know, or not the right stuff, but the stuff that like is in line with your influences to be like, how do I make something similar to that? Oh, let me listen to music he listened to. So then you know how to capture that similar vibe, or know what's more in tune with you and your artistic style that you want to have.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I mean, like it's with the few friends I have, it's a big thing for us to just send music back and forth. Like, oh, like, hey, what have you up to? And like, oh, I've been listening to this, get 3 or 4 songs sent to me, check them out, check out the album. And it's all varying stuff from like, psych folk to all the way to like from like psych folk all the way to like some 90s hip hop boom bap I've never heard, you know, and everything in between. And it's just music's a big love for me. And these sounds, they seem to take me to a place oftentimes I feel like I need to be. And it's not necessarily that I let like subject matter influence me as much as I let the music move through me. And because like I said, I've been listening to a bunch of like 80s synthwave stuff, and it's like a lot of really like atmospheric vibes. And sometimes there's just something that pops off in there that like I'm hearing something that could easily be skipped over, but I feel like it's a moment that needs to be plugged in, repeated, and have some drums thrown over it with a bass line,
Yeah, man.
and it's just great. And then other times, it's a cold wave time, and I'll listen to like Drab Majesty or something like that, or just like listen to the Tin Man by America. It's like I'm bouncing all over the place, like between that. But recently, it's just been after I put out this album, I've really been diving deep back into some like I guess late '90s, early 2000s rap, mostly regional stuff from like the West Coast that DJ Quick was doing because I respect him a lot as a producer and how he innovated things. And Who else? A lot of stuff that was coming out of Houston at the time, like Big Pokey, the Wasp Nest, things like that. I posted a few on my Instagram stories, just but I've really been like that sound always really meant a lot to me growing up because Texas was in an interesting place. Like you grow up and like there's different influences, and there's back then, growing up in the early 2000s, there was a lot of regional sounds, and like the South was big, but like it was sections of the South. Like 3 6 Mafia had their thing with Memphis, and like Trick Daddy down in Florida. You had Dipset, Nas, and the other greats up in New York, and then you had like the big West Coast front with like Mac Dre, Celly Cell, Ice Cube, et cetera, et cetera. But like it was really cool to be a kid and like see some guys from Texas really blow up, like Paul Wall and Slim Thug and stuff like that. And it was just like, man, like, oh, it's possible. Like, because it's like there was this whole Texas sound that I grew up on, but like it only seemed like it really felt like it only existed here. Like I didn't realize the big impact of it until, I turned on MTV and saw Still Tippin' or Nelly and Paul Wall do grills and things like that. And, it was just a really big moment. So I've been diving back into that sound because unintentionally I end up making stuff that sounds like it as well. It's just like kind of ingrained in me, you know? Like I went to a few functions out here in Colorado, and I showed some guys my stuff and they checked it out and they hit me up later and they were just, yo, man, like this is insane. Like this it's got this like player vibe to it, but it's like mysterious, and but it's like it feels like that old stuff from Texas, but it's not, no, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm from Texas. They're like, oh, all right, there it is. Cool. That makes sense. Like, but yeah, I'm just trying to like really hone in on like keeping it versatile, but also true to my core. Like the tracks I really love the most are the ones that, you know, kind of draw from my inspirations. Like the opening track, Blue Wraith. Uh, I put that in there because it's just kind of has this like really big player vibe to it. It sounds a little dark, but like it's not like an evil sound. You know what I mean? It's just like a
Yeah.
nighttime sound. Like cruising somewhere, windows down, top down, however you want to do it. But like it's just kind of got that sound to it. And then, once the hook hits and the beat changes with the saxophone, it's just like, oh, okay, here's the vibe still. Like, you know. So I'm just going for things like that really. And yeah, I pushed Wavy Baby as the single because I felt like it had the most mass appeal. Once again, going back to like the whole 80s influence and stuff, it's just got those it's just got those clean chords and everything. And then, it kind of lightly brings you in, and then when the beat drops, you're just like, oh, okay, man, this is jamming.
Yeah, it's got that vibes.
Yeah.
Dude. Well, hey, man. I think the 25th Hour is a great addition to everything you've released, and it's got some really great tracks on it. Thanks so much for, taking some time and telling us about your process. The album is out now on Bandcamp, but Wavy Baby is out on streaming services, and we're going to definitely have some links below to get people in touch with your music on all those streaming services, Bandcamp, and your socials, because I'm sure, like you share a lot about your artist journey with us here today, man. And, sometimes that's like stuff on social media. Sometimes it's just stuff we've talked about on this podcast. But, if you want to stay up to date with what you're doing and how like life kind of shines through in art, definitely follow Ferg and keep up with him and get excited for even more new music in 2026. We've already got, dude, you're probably one of the first few people I know that release music in 2026. Like, even what, J. Cole hasn't even released album yet. And like, what, Drake hasn't done anything yet either. You're like the first guy I know that's releasing music in 2026. So you wear that badge with honor, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to beat the majors, before my stuff gets lost in the sauce. And big ups to you too, because you gave me the idea to release early in the year rather than the end of last year. So I really appreciate that. I think I think it was a smarter move to do that, you know. So I appreciate your counsel on that. And once again, I'm always glad to talk to you, chop it up, and I appreciate the support. And you know, this has been great.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what, when you're in a community, that's what you're here for to do. But, also when you're just good friends with someone, you want to see them win too. So I'm happy to see you win. I hope people are happy to see you win and enjoy the music that you just released this year and are excited to hear uh, the full album on Bandcamp of the 25th Hour and what you're going to do next. That's always the exciting part. Whenever I listen to something you release, I'm like, oh, dude, this is great. What's he gonna do next? And every time since you've released something since I've known you, I'm like, this is way different than what I thought he was gonna do, but it's great. So I'm excited to see what you
Yeah.
do next, and I'm sure everyone else is gonna be too. So thanks, man. Thanks for coming on and sharing everything with us.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I like to keep everybody guessing. I like to keep myself guessing too. Surprise is a good surprise. And 25th hour will be on streaming eventually. And you know, I appreciate any support, any listens, any shares, and I just want to let everybody know this album isn't necessarily meant to rush you. It's just meant to sit with you. So, yeah.
Nice. Words of advice. That's a solid word of advice for when listening to music. Don't rush it, just enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
Dude. Well, hey man, thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Chords and Curves. If you'd like to be a part of the podcast, hit us up on social media. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.